Hi, my name's Dave and welcome to this little series on mental and emotional health on this not so lovely day. After a horrific year battling anxiety and depression, I made these videos to summarise some key life lessons and to offer some tools that have made an incredible difference to the quality of my life. These tools are for anybody struggling with negative patterns in their thinking, feelings or behaviour, and I can say from experience that they really work. Each video builds on the one before it, so I really recommend watching them in order. And to make sure that all the practical tools stand out from amongst the theory, I summarise them on Take Action slides, which you can see pop up throughout the series, just like this. I've also unpacked the principles behind these tools to help us understand why and how they work. And this will really help to build our confidence and our ability to put them into practice in our own situation. With that said, we all know that mental health is a complicated area, and there's no therapy that offers a one-size-fits-all solution. I'm personally grateful for my family, my friends, my doctors, my psychologist, my medication, and even the machine that gives me a better night's sleep. For all the people and all the things that I've depended on for my recovery, I'm so thankful. And finally, I'm not a doctor or a psychologist or a scientist. I've been really careful to make sure that this is all underpinned by current research, but of course, above all, always follow the advice of your healthcare professional. Enjoy. Welcome to Mental and Emotional Health 1. Firstly, I'm going to introduce this series with a message of hope. Next, I'll remind us that our mental health matters. Thirdly, we'll see that we have the ability to change our own brain. Fourthly, we'll look at how our thinking habits have a monumental effect on our daily lives. And finally, I'll introduce some thinking habits that have been a challenge for me personally. So first up, I hope things are going great. But if you're stressed out or going through a crisis, or if life just isn't working and you're not sure why, I just want to reassure you that there is hope. After years of struggling with anxiety and depression, I'm now so thankful to be enjoying a new freedom that I didn't even know was possible. And so in these videos, I want to summarise some of the keys and life lessons that have transformed my mental health. Things I've either read or learnt from a psychologist or just learnt the hard way from experience. But before diving in, it's worth asking the question, do you ever feel stuck on repeat? Do you ever notice negative themes or patterns in your life, or have problems in relationships that just seem to pop up over and over again? Do you ever feel trapped in unhelpful ways of thinking or in bad habits, and every effort to change just seems to backfire? Well, unfortunately, for most of my life, the answer was yes to all. But I'd like to suggest that there is a way forward, and that for most of us, the problem, as well as the solution, lies squarely between our ears. And so in these videos, I'm going to cover a bit about how the brain works, then show how easy it is to create unhealthy automatic thinking habits that can ruin our lives. And then finally, I'll share some ways to transform how we relate to our automatic thoughts and feelings to help us build new, healthy thinking habits for the future. And the great news is that these new thinking habits can give us a new lease on life as they help us overcome struggles with depression, unhelpful anxiety, anger, shame, and loads of other addictions and disorders. In short, transforming our thinking habits can transform our life. So keep watching if you're interested in that. But to start, the first thing I learned from my horrendous year is kind of obvious, but it's that our mental health is just as important as our physical health. And in the same way, it needs the right care and attention, and sometimes medical intervention to stay in good shape. We put time and effort into our physical health, we keep our cars running, our houses clean, we even brush our hair in the mornings, and yet we kind of think that our mental health will just take care of itself. So many times I've kept too busy and too distracted to prioritise my mental well-being, and I've paid the price. Secondly, I've been learning a bit about how incredible our brains are. To me, they're a bit like the gatekeeper to our quality of life. Like our bodies, our brains are the product of our DNA. Our memory, intelligence, our mental health are all partly the result of what we've inherited from our family. And disorders and imbalances like bipolar and depressive disorders, for example, are very real problems which need medical treatment. In addition to that, science shows that our brains are also shaped by our own thoughts and experiences. So in one sense, we play a very real part in shaping our own brain. In the same way that our choices affect our physical health and the shape of our bodies, our choices also affect our mental and emotional health, and to some extent, the physical structure of our brains. This is because our brains are flexible and they can be retrained for better mental health and a better life. Feel free to look up the word neuroplasticity if you're interested in the science. So, as you probably know, we all have well-worn connections or pathways in our brains, which have been reinforced over and over again. Many of these began in our childhood, and some came out of just a single painful or scary experience. And these well-established pathways can cause us to think and behave automatically, usually without us even realizing what's happening. For example, anyone who drives a car knows that strange feeling of arriving at a place and having no memory of just having driven there. It's almost like the hidden connections in our brain have taken over the wheel for us. And so we're great at forming habits. Some are easy to spot, like the habit of constantly checking our phones, while others are much harder, like the well-worn habits in our thinking that can be almost totally hidden from our awareness. And of course, these automatic thinking habits shape our view of the world and ourselves, and they powerfully influence how we feel and react to things. In fact, so much of what we say and do and think and feel is prescribed to us by these thinking habits. And trying to change can be a bit like asking a computer to go against its programming. I've personally experienced so much stress and anxiety in my own life from unhealthy, undetected thinking habits that were already well established from a young age. And for me, these thinking habits work a bit like filters on a camera. The filters themselves aren't noticeable, and they don't make any difference to the world around them, but they do have a huge impact on how we perceive the world by distorting our view of reality. So here are 3 examples of hidden thinking habits underpinned by unhealthy beliefs, which have been a huge problem for me in the past. The first is that my worth and value is not fixed, but it has to be earned by striving to be perfect, by performing and constantly comparing myself with others to make sure I measure up. The second thinking habit is similar. Without even realizing it, I believed I have to do whatever it takes to please and impress other people and earn their approval, even if that means changing who I really am. Now, most people know that these 2 thinking habits are a complete load of crap, but because I wasn't even aware of them and they were so well ingrained, they were totally true for me, and they stained my view of myself and the world, and they made me feel terrible without even understanding why. Well, thankfully, after plenty of hard work, these thinking habits have been pretty much totally overhauled by the truth, which is that people are equally valuable and lovable. And nothing we say or do, or our talents, or our looks, or our achievements, or our qualifications, or the size of our house, or the number of our friends, or anything else has any influence over our worth and value whatsoever. We are all uniquely created in the image of God and infinitely loved before we even say or do anything. So just breathing is enough. And what a huge relief it was to learn that. Now, in a moment, I'll share the last thinking habit, which has a lot to do with why I crashed so badly last year. But before going into that, check out the next video, which looks at part of the brain in a little bit more detail to help us understand our thinking habits better.